Welcome to Zone Coverage. We're at Stewart's TV and Appliance for our weekly look at everything having to do with the Cleveland Browns. I'm Scott Petrak, Browns beat writer for the Chronicle-Telegram, Medina Gazette, and BrownsZone.com, and this is Jim Ingraham, our sports columnist. Well, Jim, another week, another disaster, this time 33-17 at Houston. It feels like a game that there's going to be a lot of fallout from. Let's start with the quarterback. How surprised are you that Kevin Hogan was as bad as he was in his first NFL start, given that he played pretty well coming off the bench for Deshaun Kaiser?
Yeah, he has, and I guess this is an indication of there's a big difference between being a backup and being a starter. What struck me was like almost all of his throws were like overthrows.
Yeah.
Like his accuracy was at an all-time low, and that obviously doesn't help. But you're right, this was just a total disaster, except for the play of Myles Garrett, I suppose.
Right.
The whole rest of the thing was just a total mess, and it's hard to believe you could be 0-6 and getting worse each week, but I think that's the case right now.
Yeah, it sure looks like that. And back to Hogan, I mean, he looked overwhelmed, maybe overmatched, and maybe that's to be expected from your first start, but he certainly did not give Hugh Jackson the spark that he was looking for. I didn't like the move to Kevin Hogan in the first place. I didn't like Deshaun Kaiser being benched against the Jets. I didn't like Kevin Hogan starting against the Houston Texans. So I certainly think Hugh Jackson should, and it sounds like he will, go back to Deshaun Kaiser this week against the Tennessee Titans. I just think you drafted the guy number 52. He's got tons of potential. Don't you think Hugh has to go back to Kaiser this week and then moving forward?
Yeah, I would say so. This almost seemed like he felt like he had to do this for 1 week, and he almost got the feeling that no matter how Hogan played, he was going to go back to Kaiser maybe as early as next week anyway. And the way Hogan played made it even easier for him because that was just a complete disaster. I mean, I don't ever remember a team that started out with the number 4 quarterback starting the 6th game of the season with no injuries causing this.
Right.
So, yeah, I would be surprised if he doesn't go back to Kaiser.
Well, Jim, it's only week 6, right? They've played 6 games, and yet there's already rumblings and rumors and reports about what's going to happen after the season. Pro Football Talk reported Sunday night that Jimmy Haslam or the Browns have already reached out to front office candidates. WKYC-TV reported Monday that Peyton Manning was in town last week. Nobody knows why he was in town, but he was in town. He's always been connected with Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns. Do you think it's too soon for Jimmy and D. Haslam to pull the plug on this rebuilding process? It's only 2 years in, not even 2 years in, and it kind of was billed as a 3 to 5 year deal. But is it too soon for them to say, you know what, we're done with this?
Well, the argument for saying that is that where are the signs of progress? Yep. I mean, you don't look for an immediate turnaround, but we're not even seeing like tiny incremental advancements.
Sure.
It's as bad now as it's been at probably any point in this 2-year rebuild. So for me, I would say everything's on the table or should be on the table just for that reason. I mean, you'd like to see a little bit of progress, and if anything, they've just been stagnant these 2 years.
No, you're 100% right. And you pointed to Myles Garrett. He's probably the only real bright spot. And Jason McCourty, the veteran cornerback, has played really well, had a pick 6 last week. But the number 1 pick in the draft is supposed to be good. That's not supposed to be it's not a great mark for Sashi Brown that he got the number 1 pick in the draft, right? What's bigger is that the roster is still outclassed every week. They don't look like they have enough talent. The receiving core, we've talked about a billion times, isn't NFL caliber. They don't have a starting free safety. So if Jimmy Haslam's going to make a move, there are plenty of reasons for him to do that, even though he said he was going to be patient. You need to see signs of progress to give you some sense that this is going in the right direction. And you're right, we just haven't seen any of those. So Peyton Manning, I think he's such a fascinating name to bring up because he's one of the best quarterbacks ever in the National Football League. We know how smart he is. We know the attention to detail he had as a quarterback, which you assume will apply to the front office. Do you think, is he the kind of guy that would get you excited if Jimmy Haslam were able to land him? And then number 2, do you think Peyton Manning would even consider coming here to work?
Well, I think it would be an exciting thing. It would be a much-needed PR shot in the arm for the organization that desperately needs one. And I think Manning, for all those reasons you just gave, would be a perfect fit for this organization because he's a real studious, cerebral kind of quarterback that had the biggest moments in the NFL and knows what it takes to get there. And I could see no downside for him to come in and, then the ancillary thing about being able to even help a quarterback now and then. So there's a lot of good reasons that I would look into that, and I think it would be a perfect hire for them.
Yeah, and you know what? He worked with, he played for the Broncos when John Elway was there running the front office. And we know John Elway, they almost had similar careers. John Elway, one of the top all-time quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, one of the top all-time quarterbacks. Then John Elway leads a team to the Super Bowl in the front office, and that's what obviously Peyton Manning would try to do. So the similarities are great. And he'd be a guy that, even though he'd be new to the position, you could see him learn. Like Sashi Brown, you just wonder, okay, what's the ceiling for Sashi Brown? He doesn't have a football background. For Peyton Manning, you assume the ceiling's, the sky's the limit for him, and he would only get better in the job. So it would be interesting. I'm not convinced he would come here, and part of that is because he'll probably have other options. Tennessee, he's been mentioned with Tennessee. He's got the history with Indianapolis. He's got the history with Denver. There seems like there's other teams would be interested in him, and I don't know what Jimmy Haslam would have to do to get Peyton Manning to come to Cleveland. Before we move on completely, we got to talk a little bit about Deshaun Watson. The Browns passed him up, right? They gave the number 12 pick to the Houston Texans. They used it immediately on Deshaun Watson. And then not only does he beat him last week, he makes it look easy, and he's off to a historic start to his NFL career for a rookie quarterback. Jim, which move do you think the Browns will regret more? Passing on Deshaun Watson or passing on Carson Wentz?
Well, they're about equal,
Yeah.
almost. And this is one of the areas I meant when I said show some incremental improvements.
Yep.
To me, this front office is putting all its eggs in the draft basket, so to speak. And they've done nothing outside of Myles Garrett, which was a no-brainer. But, the other draft picks they've made have made no impact whatsoever.
Right.
And they make all these complicated maneuvering draft day trades that's resulted in nothing. Like last year, they drafted 4 receivers to a destitute receiving core,
Right.
and none of them could even make a blip on the radar screen.
Yeah.
So if they would have taken just either Wentz or Watson, they'd be way better than they are now, which then you could say, okay, the front office has got a handle on this and we're seeing some progress. But they didn't, and they are where they are now, and it's looking bleaker than ever.
Yeah, you're right. And unless Deshaun Kaiser turns out to be the franchise quarterback, and there's still that possibility, right? I haven't given up on Deshaun Kaiser at all. But unless he turns in to be that franchise quarterback, this front office will have missed 2 golden opportunities to find that franchise quarterback, and they have to know how important that is. All the other positions don't matter nearly as much as the quarterback does, and I just don't think they grasp that. And they can make the argument, well, we picked up all these extra picks and turned them into players. Unless those guys turn into all-pros, you would need like 3 all-pros at other positions to make up for 1 franchise quarterback. And so far, Myles Garrett's the only guy that looks like an all-pro, and that pick wasn't through a trade. So, watching Watson have the kind of success that he's had is just another black mark against his front office. Well, before we wrap up, let's look real quick at the Tennessee Titans are coming to town on Sunday. They're coming off a win Monday night. Marcus Mariota, another top young quarterback, is coming into town. Jim, sometimes teams have a letdown after a Monday night win. Can the Browns catch them off guard and maybe get a win before they go to London?
Well, I think it's safe to say the Browns won't have a letdown because if they do have a letdown, they may not even show up.
Yeah.
The Titans could have a letdown and still beat the Browns by 30. I mean, it's just such a bad situation right now. There's outside of Garrett, there's really nothing that even excites you about watching the game. So I think they'll probably go back to Kaiser, and we'll see how that goes and see if the week off helps them. But I see no indication that they're anywhere ready to win an NFL game.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be close in Houston, and obviously they weren't. They got blown out. So, again, I can't pick them to win. I could see Tennessee's not a great team. They don't have a lot of stars. Maybe the Browns can hang around. Maybe Deshaun Kaiser learned a lot in that 1 week on the sideline. That's the hope for the Browns. But I can't pick them to win. So my early pick would be Tennessee 20, Cleveland 17, and that might be being optimistic. Thanks for watching. We'll be back here next week at Stewart's TV and Appliance.